As educators, school days are defined by the calendar and a regular series of bells and time limits. Tuesday is sharing day. Recess is from 9:17 to 9:31. Every other Monday, there's a staff meeting. Without question, students can find success in an environment defined by schedule and routine, but they can also be inspired and enriched by the unexpected.
Am I late? Oh, I see. It's one of those no talking things. Fine, shh.
What is the definition of unexpected? According to dictionary.com, the definition of unexpected is not expected.
Remind me to look up the definition of uninteresting.
Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote, "It is strange how new and unexpected conditions bring out unguessed ability to meet them."
He also wrote about a Confederate soldier who hides in a cave and gets zapped to Mars, which I bet he found unexpected.
Dean Koontz wrote, "Sometimes enlightenment descends upon you when you least expect it."
Fun fact, Dean Koontz and Edgar Rice Burroughs were in the same bowling league.
And Marcel Proust wrote, "But instead of what our imagination makes us suppose and which we worthless try to discover, life gives us something that we could hardly imagine."
Somebody got a book of quotations for Christmas.
What are these great writers trying to say?
It's easier to be quoted if you're a white male?
Why should we as educators embrace the unexpected? The heart of elementary education is the fortification of dictums and facts. Science is the replication of previous outcomes. Mathematics is the understanding of patterns and predictability. Spelling and grammar are anchored in rules and reason. But art is the anticipation of the unseen. Art is the opportunity to exalt the mysteries of life without having to define them. Why do we stare at a painting for over an hour in a museum, or listen to a symphony for the 50th time, or keep reading a poem out loud? We are allowing ourselves to find something new that speaks to our soul. Don't we owe it to our students to give them the opportunity to experience that elation or to elicit that joy in others? It is my belief that those positive feelings can be brought forth in the classroom by embracing the unexpected.
No, I can take so much and then I can't take any more. No.
What is your problem? You disagree with what I said?
You were finally saying something that showed insight and wisdom and you ruined it. Joker Man? Are you kidding me? You want to be taken seriously and you use the font Joker Man? Unacceptable. Comic Sans is reprehensible, but Comic Sans is better than Joker Man.
Fine. Is that better?
Wow, that is some look you have going for you there.
It's a quarantine beard.
You look like the Unabomber. If the Unabomber really let himself go.
That's unnecessary.
Look, I don't want to keep you. I know you've got work to do instilling nightmares in the minds of young children.
Just mean.
So, give me your elevator pitch. Why should these people listen to what you have to say?
Well, one of the challenges of teaching at the elementary level is finding effective methods to incorporate art across the curriculum. While this practice tends to focus on visual art, I want to share some ideas to incorporate performing arts. It's focusing on improvisation and puppetry.
I know what improvisation is. It's that thing where people don't want to memorize lines, so just make stuff up. But what's that second thing?
Puppetry? Puppetry is the manipulation of an inanimate object in order to animate it, to mimic the characteristics of living creatures, to elicit humor and empathy.
That sounds ridiculous.
I'll tell you what, instead of trying to explain it to you, why don't I just demonstrate? May I?
Knock yourself out.
Let me give you a brief history of puppetry, not history of puppetry itself, but my history with puppetry. I was too old for Sesame Street, but I was the perfect age for The Muppet Show. One of the aspects I loved about the show was that they never acknowledged that they were puppets. The guest stars always treated them as if they were living characters. In the 1980s, I had the opportunity to hear Jim Henson speak at the American Film Institute. He came across as a quiet and gentle genius. And then he reached down to a backpack that had been at his side. And from that backpack emerged Kermit the Frog. And when Jim Henson put Kermit the Frog on his right hand, he changed. This demure man transformed into a bolt of energy, and the room got a little bit brighter. What a puppet can do is allow someone to express a side of their personality they keep trapped within a wall of discomfort. When I was teaching upper elementary at a public school in Pasadena, a colleague distributed a catalog from a company called Folkmanis Puppets. Now, at this stage, I need to state very clearly that I have never received any compensation from Folkmanis. In fact, the opposite is true. I have compensated them a lot. My colleague was looking for other teachers who were interested in buying puppets from Folkmanis, which they offered at an educator's discount, wholesale, if you spend at least $200. What I like about the puppets is they're unique and clever design, and they choose interesting characters like a griffin or a jackalope or a dodo bird, and very tactile materials. Students love to pet them as much as they want to listen to them or make them talk. I am not a professional puppeteer, and I'm certainly not a ventriloquist. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And if you're interested in being either of those things, there are plenty of videos you can watch online to teach you how to do it. What I want to do is give you a few basic techniques to make the puppet more engaging. I've used puppets with kindergartners through middle schoolers. I've used puppets at staff meetings and professional developments. This is one of my favorites, Benny the Rat. Folkmanis thinks he's a mouse, but I think Benny the Rat sounds better than Benny the Mouse. He's got a nice, large, expressive mouth. Basically, what you want to do is open and close it with every syllable to mimic normal behavior, as if you were lip syncing to your own voice. Lip syncing. There's an example right there. For my middle school drama elective class, the students selected a puppet to lip sync to a song of their choosing. We set up a camera and a projector so they could see their performance live on the screen at the front of the room. There was a young lady in that class whom the other students had unfairly labeled as being shy. Now, we will come back to the word shy later. She would not have been comfortable singing in front of the class or even lip syncing in front of the class, but when she used a puppet, a new world of emotion and art opened up for her. The puppet was expressive and totally invested in the lyrics of the song. That class ended up using that technique to perform at an assembly in front of the entire school. Something else to think about is the economy of movement. If you move around too quickly, you can appear manic and off-putting. And if you go too slowly, you could appear lethargic or semi-comatose. To demonstrate, I'm going to use my dodo bird, Baskin. Side note, I have over 100 puppets. They do not all have names. Benny is named after my son Bennett, and one of my students named Baskin. Side note to the side note. One morning, before school, two of my former second grade students came to ask me if there was something they could do to help. Not wanting to disappoint them, I indicated my puppet display and asked them to alphabetize the puppets. Without questioning, that request, they took all the puppets off and put them on the tables and very carefully put them back in alphabetical order, starting with the alligator, and then the bear and the cat, etc. And when they were done, they asked me to come examine their work. And for some reason, I decided to be difficult. And I said, "Oh, I meant to alphabetize them by their first name." And now Baskin is going to read to you from an unpublished children's book entitled Nigel's Detective Party.
Down in Clearborn Valley, 3 things happened every morning. The sun rose in the east, the crickets finished their nightly concert, and Nigel's Detective Party opened for business. Party headquarters were in the hollow of an old tree, where a family of frying squirrels had set up shop. Nigel originally moved in because the donut hole made the best maple bars in the valley. Trevor and Clive comprised the rest of his party, and they were otters, from their shiny black noses down to their sleek black tails. Nigel had discovered his calling one spring when a yearling named Brisket lost his spots. Although Nigel was not able to find them, he did discover that in the deer family only the fawns had spots, and Brisket had simply outgrown the need for them. That was the start of the detective party.
Our school had a family reading night, and I was invited to bring some puppets to read to families in the library. I will be honest with you, by the end of the evening my arm was tired and my voice was sore, but every time I would turn my attention from the book and look out at the audience, I could see that they were engaged. And here's the wonder of trying something new. I didn't learn about this until months later. In the audience that night was one of our first grade teachers. She brought along her young son, who up until that time had shown very little interest in reading. And being a teacher, she had tried all the strategies she had used in the classroom, but nothing got him excited about reading until a puppet read to him. Noticing his reaction, she decided to try this technique at home, except instead of using hand puppets, she used finger puppets. Like these. Also, folk Manus. Still, no compensation. Every night at bedtime, one of the puppets would read to him, and he began to look forward to these literary journeys. They gave the puppets names and backstories. And this was so successful with her child that the teacher started making puppets available to students in her classroom. Which reminds me that I never referred to my puppets as toys. I did not have toys in my classroom. They were tools, and tools have rules. Tools do not fight. Tools should not be left on the floor. And tools do not try to eat other tools. Over the years, my students have used these puppets to make commercials while we were doing a unit on money. They were also used as visual aids when talking about habitats or extinction. Sorry, Baskin. I also made the puppets available when they were presenting vocabulary words from that week's reading selection. But to develop critical thinking skills, they couldn't just use a puppet randomly. They had to justify their use to me, which was insightful and sometimes entertaining. It was fun to see a 4th grader try to justify using an alligator to demonstrate the word yurt. When I was teaching 7th grade English, I had just commenced what I hoped would be a magically enthralling journey into the wonders of semicolons. It quickly became evident that my students did not share my fondness for tragically misunderstood punctuation. So I stopped what I was doing, and without much forethought, I asked my students, would you care more about semicolons if they were taught to you by a goat? Yes, my students replied, we do believe we would care more about semicolons if they were taught to them by a goat. Now, am I going to tell you that those students today are well versed in semicolon use because of what happened that day? No, I am not. But what I will say is that you can never predict what a student is going to remember. So why not try something new? Now we begin the transitional portion of my presentation, as I seamlessly go from delving into the wonders of puppetry and begin my exploration and explanation into the wonders of improvisation. Now, I have to confess, I was never a great lesson planner. I could appreciate a good lesson plan, and they were extremely useful to me when I began my career as a substitute teacher. But I think a teacher can become so boxed in by a lesson plan that they feel they don't have the time to explore the unexpected. I once spent a week subbing for a veteran first grade teacher who left a very detailed lesson plan telling me what to do for every minute of that week. It was so specific. It told me what to do when I went home. There's a little known rule that all white males living in Los Angeles at some point have to take an improv class. For me, the series of classes I took at the Upright Citizens Brigade, and more importantly the shows I saw there, helped me appreciate how important it is as a teacher to be in the moment. One of the core concepts of improvisation can be summarized into two words: yes and. Let's delve into the meaning of those two words and see how they might benefit us as educators. If you are in an improv scene with a partner or a group, you need the support of others in order to accomplish your goal of engaging the audience. The goal of improv is not to make the audience laugh. That is a trap many improv students, myself included, fall into. The goal of improv is to tell a story and make the audience think. Does that sound familiar? If you are in an improv scene with a partner and you say, "How do you enjoy living in a volcano?" And your partner says, "I don't live in a volcano, I live in an ice cave on the planet Splork." Well, you and your partner are not working together and the scene is dead. Yes and means you affirm what your partner says and you add more information, more details, so you can find interesting paths to explore. Yes, I love living in a volcano. And no matter how long the delivery person takes to get here, the pizza is always warm. When your improv partner gives you something like that to explore, that is called a gift. Your job is to listen for those gifts and to take advantage of them to deepen your story together and to give gifts when you can. That, to me, is the same relationship we should have with our students. We should be looking for those gifts, which may be a brief remark about what kind of music they like or what they enjoy doing with their family, and use those gifts to deepen our story together. And to give our students gifts by sharing aspects of ourselves that they may find comforting or empathetic. So how might we use these improvisation ideas across the curriculum? For one of my first improv classes, we were told that we were going to stand in front of the class and talk about a subject we felt we knew a lot about. We were told we were going to do this just moments before we had to start talking. We were not given time to plan or research. We just had to get in front of the class and start talking. We can adjust this a little bit by giving our students the opportunity to convey their understanding of a topic in a less structured format than reading a book report or presenting a trifold. You could have two students who had each researched a historical or literary figure pretend to sit on a park bench at the front of the classroom and have a conversation with each other. The class's task is to figure out who they are. Or if they've been asked to research a planet or an animal or a historical era, they could take questions from the audience as that planet or animal or figure from that historical era in order to demonstrate their understanding of the subject. Now we return to something I said I would come back to. People steer away from the performing arts because they've been told they are shy. That is a trigger word for me because I would describe myself as being shy. The sentence that fills me with the most dread is, "We're going to start with an icebreaker." In fact, if it were up to me, this entire presentation would have been done by Benny the Rat, and you never would have seen me at all.
Now that's the best idea you've had today.
I describe myself as wanting to be the center of attention, but I don't like people staring at me. That's difficult to do when you're a teacher. So to become comfortable speaking in front of an audience, I started by doing plays in school. We all know that one of the greater fears someone can confront is the public speaking. By giving students multiple opportunities to speak in front of their peers, whether as themselves or by using puppetry or improvisation, we are giving them the opportunity to confront that fear. And by confronting that fear, they may be able to replace it with something else. And that something else might be art. I have one more suggestion regarding embracing the unexpected. You may have noticed that during this presentation I have shared a series of anecdotes. And my ability to remember those events is due to one simple reason: I wrote them down. Now, I've not always followed my own advice in this area, but my suggestion to you is that you keep a journal of your experiences with the unexpected, both positive and negative. Write down your successes and mistakes. With that in mind, I will share with you one of my favorite examples of unexpected brilliance. My 5th grade class was using comparison and contrast to learn about living organisms. They started by comparing and contrasting photos of plants. Upon randomly being shown the image of a redwood tree and the image of a sunflower, they would compare them by saying they both required sunlight and they both produced oxygen. When I attempted to make the lesson more challenging by comparing and contrasting the image of a plant with the image of an animal, one of my students made what I believe is the most brilliant observation any student of mine ever shared with me. Upon randomly being shown the image of an orange and the image of a cow, my student observed, both of them give you something to drink when you squeeze them. That was art. My name is Christopher James Reagan. Thank you for your time and attention.
Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
So that thing on your face,
You don't have to.
it's the first time I've seen facial hair in need of an intervention.
There it is.
I would call the rat's nest, but that would be an insult to my family.
Let it go.
You look like you should be out searching for a white whale.
I get it.
Tell me, are you still in contact with Wilson?
Wilson?
The volleyball.
Got it. Castaway.
Actually, it's cast away. 2 words, there's a difference.
Good to know.
By the way, congratulations.
For what?
Winning 2nd place in the Rutherford B. Hayes cosplay competition.
Why second place?
1st place went to a goat.